As a Muslim youth, I feel as though the response to Israel Folau's extremist preaching would be vastly different if, rather than a Christian, he were a Muslim. If Israel Folau were a Muslim, would the Attorney General be considering new laws to protect religious freedoms?
Diana, start with you.
Yeah, thank you for that great question. Obviously, the topic of Folau's case in particular has gotten a lot of airtime lately, and I'm more interested in the discussion that's happening this week with interested groups and the consultation process that the Morrison government is going through with this Religious Discrimination Act. I think that most of us would agree, and particularly as a Muslim woman myself, that anyone who chooses to practice or otherwise should be free to practice their religion, free from discrimination as well. And particularly in light of the aftermath of Christchurch, having just gotten back from New Zealand myself, I think it's even more pertinent now than ever that we are protected from religious discrimination. It's really important, though, that during this whole debate that's being sparked, and we've had this conversation as being aired out, every week, and particularly on this show as well, it's really important that these consultations and the process that's being undergone now, that the Act doesn't allow people or give them a licence to discriminate. And having those conversations are really important to have, because particularly communities that could be affected, the LGBTQI community and women as well as single mothers. So it's really important that this bill strikes a balance, that people who are free to practice their religion but are not granted a licence to discriminate.
Scott, I'll just take you back to the question. The questioner asked, would we still be having the same debate and the calls for a Religious Freedom Act if Israel Folau had been a Muslim?
I'll be honest, I don't know. I mean, I think this debate's been brewing for a while. I think this debate follows a longer debate we've had about the laws around speech that has been going on for several years. Now, I think this has got two issues. There's firstly the issue of what are you allowed to contract for, and is the state allowed to interfere in the rights of contract? Then there is secondly laws around limiting of speech. Now, I've said before, I am particularly radical and liberal on this. I'm much more down the American school of free speech in terms of, and that applies to defamation law, laws we have around vilification, as well as laws we have about publication and freedom of the media. That's not a common view, I must say. But I think we've got to be careful whether we go down to what I say, trying to use the Elizabethan phrase of peering into people's souls. I don't know if something can be said, or something that is said should be legal because of a particular religious view, whether that be being Christian, being Muslim, or the writings of L. Ron Hubbard, that would otherwise be illegal if I didn't have if I wasn't being that. I don't like laws going to motive. I like laws looking at actions. And so I think the Attorney-General is being very responsible here. I've had discussions with him. He understands the complexity and he's undertaken consultation within the parliamentary party before he takes it out to stakeholder groups. I just think we need to be careful, and I start from that point, that I don't think we need more laws limiting speech, but at the same time, I think this is a complex balancing of competing interests that we've got to be careful we don't draft a broad law that then just kicks the ball into the judiciary or tribunals and we don't know where the answer's going to land.
Penny Wong.
Okay. There are 2 points or 2 issues I want to address. First, in relation to Mr. Folau. Can I say first, just at an emotional level, I wish that we could have more expressions of love and forgiveness rather than condemnation when it came to belief. And I wish that public figures, politicians, sporting stars, etc., might consider for a moment, and I think I've been on this show saying this before, where their words land in vulnerable Australians before they speak them. Now, he is entitled to his beliefs. I disagree with them, and I think we ought to remember he doesn't speak for all Christians. In terms of the broader issue, we are an accepting, tolerant nation, and we aspire to deal with each other respectfully. So whatever happens in this current debate around religious freedom, etc., I think we mustn't lose sight of those key characteristics of Australian identity. We don't want to become less accepting. We don't want to become less tolerant. We don't want to abrogate our agreed view that people are entitled to equality before the law, that we believe that people are equal regardless of gender, race, faith, sexuality, disability, etc. And we should hold I think, to those objectives, that we're not seeking to diminish that. I'm open to a discussion about how we deal with religious protections. But I would make this point, and I made this point during the marriage equality debate. There is a distinction between a right to belief and the assertion that that belief should lead to you being treated differently before the law. And that is a big thing to do. There are circumstances where Australia has done that. We have particular provisions, for example, in the Sex Discrimination Act, where because someone has a belief, they are not required to behave as other Australians are before the law. But I think we need to think very carefully about how we manage this debate. I hope it can be done in a way that's not partisan. I hope it can be done respectfully, and I hope it can be done with the objective of ensuring that just as Australians of faith don't wish to be discriminated against, that Australians of other attributes also don't wish to be discriminated
Just a quick one on this, because we may be about to see it. Religious freedom legislation. What would you be worried about?
Well, I think the principles I've just articulated. I'm happy, and I think the Labor Party is happy to engage constructively. What I don't want to see is the objectives that are a part of our Australian identity, tolerant, accepting nation, in which people are treated equally. I don't want those abrogated.
Okay.
I think that requires a very sensitive and respectful discussion.